Okay, last session of the day. The topic, though, is super engaging and exciting. I was speaking with Anne earlier this morning. She said, is anyone going to hang around before drinks and come to my session? I said, I think, given that we're talking about crafting a resume and how important it is in distilling kind of your achievements and what you have to offer on a page, that it's got a lot to offer. So it's my pleasure today to introduce to you Anne Ryan, who is on a mission to help people jumpstart their careers and by completely reevaluating their job search process. Anne is an engineer and a project manager at Palantir Technologies since 2008. She's reviewed thousands of CVs and resumes, so very well qualified to run this session today. She's interviewed hundreds of candidates and given hundreds of recruiting presentations across the US and Europe. When she's not solving technical problems, Anne is offering resume workshops and speaking about careers in technology at conferences like this one, at schools and at not-for-profits, including at the 2015, 17 and 18 Grace Hopper celebrations in the US. Anne co-founded and continues to globally represent women in technology at Palantir, a group dedicated to providing professional development, networking and outreach to its members and allies. She earned her Bachelor in Computer Science and Systems Engineering at RPI. And her Master's in Engineering Management at Duke. So welcome, Anne. We're really looking forward to today. I glossed over a couple of things, guys. You've probably heard them all throughout the sessions, but exits are here. If you can turn your phones off for the session, that'll be great. And enjoy. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, especially at 4:30 after a long day. I appreciate it. All right, so we will just get right into it. Well, welcome to Craft Your Best Resume. You can't shatter the glass ceiling until you've made it through the front door. That title is courtesy of my colleague Dana, who came up for it. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I think it's a great title. I'm also going to walk around a lot, so hopefully everyone will have a view at some point. Okay, cool. So my name is Anne. This is a little bit about me. I'm from New York. I flew here all the way from Manhattan. It was a good 24 hours of travel, but I'm so happy to be here. I did do my undergrad at RPI and my master's at Duke. I am currently a project manager and one of the women in tech leads at Palantir, based out of the New York office. And this is my 5th time speaking at an AnitaB.org event, and my 1st time speaking in Australia. So this is very exciting. Cool. And this is the 4th time I have done this workshop for Anita B, the 18th time overall. So it's very much a labor of love and a work in progress. So, okay, so before we begin, I just wanted to blanket with this statement. You don't have to take any of the advice in this talk at all. If you don't like it, don't use it. It's no big deal. And if you kind of like it, sit on it for a little bit and think about it. And I have handouts that are going to go over everything that we discuss here, but you get it at the end. So you have to stick through the whole workshop to get the handouts, but I will hand them out, okay? Cool. All right, quick question to poll the room. How many people are going to the career fair tomorrow? Okay, about half the room, cool. How many people have ever written a resume the night before you needed it? Yeah, hands up way high, way high. Yeah, I've done it too, okay. How many people have ever sent out a resume to a bunch of companies only to realize later that there was a blatant error on it? Yeah, okay, cool. How many people are 100% positively, absolutely, totally happy with their resume as it stands right now? It's a good thing we're all here. Cool. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today in an hour, and we're going to have to move pretty quickly because we're going to do some workshops, like portions of it. There's going to be 3. So just to establish with the room, I'll have a timer. It's going to go off. And so if I just say, hey, let's wrap it up, and I put my hand up, if you could just also put your hand up and be quiet. I know it sounds cheesy, but trust me, it actually does work. And we'll just move on to the next one because I want to get you out of here at 5:30 for drinks. Okay, so we're going to go over what makes a great resume components. We're going to do 3 resume review rounds. And while we're doing, if you just look to the people to your left and your right and just give them a little wave, say hello, how are you? Introduce yourself real quick, hi. Guess what? These people are going to be reviewing your resume today. Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. Cool. And then we'll do a quick wrap up, a recap, and a little Q&A, right? So I've given a lot of presentations, and you tell people what you're going to tell them. You tell them what you told them, and then you tell them again what you just told them. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so why is a resume important? Because it is you on paper. It is. It's you on paper. And it is something that you should be really confident in and really proud of. And writing a resume, a really good resume, is really hard. I know. I give workshops on this in my spare time. I want to say for a living, but not yet. I give workshops on this all the time, and I still struggle to write my own resume. It's really hard. Resume feedback is really valuable because even I do this. Have you ever written something only to wonder if you spelled the word "the" correctly in it because you've stared at it so often? Yeah, everyone's nodding. Okay, cool. It's not just me. Fantastic. So the same thing happens with the resume. You spend so much time, you get so attached to the words, you stop thinking about how the reader is going to interpret, someone else is going to interpret your resume and what's on it. So I think getting feedback from people who maybe don't even know you, right, about your resume can give you some really interesting insight about what they're gleaning from it, and can tell you what you're trying to what you're trying to say, but maybe how they're taking it in, right? Also, I have this concept that it's more fun to do someone else's homework than yours. So, and you also get to see, do you know what I mean? A lot of, get some ideas of what other people are doing on their resume, maybe get some, spruce up yours. And also, giving and receiving feedback is a skill that you got to practice, and it's really, really valuable. Okay. We're going to go over this as quickly as possible. This is the resume component levels. I've split them up into basic, advanced, and ultimate. We are going to work through workshop sessions that go through these three, so they're all going to build on each other, okay? Basic components. I don't know what it's like here in Australia, but in the US, you keep it one page, one-sided. It's easy to read. And if you have too many pages, no one's going to actually go through and read it. Formatting it clearly. Have you ever seen a speaker, I think it was kind of like the keynote speakers today, a speaker that is so engaging that you can kind of turn off your brain and just sit there and listen, and it's just like the time flies by, and then they stop talking, you're like, why are you stop talking? This is great, keep going. And have you ever seen a speaker who is so dry that you have to repeat every single word that they say in your head just to stay awake? That's the difference between a well-formatted resume and a poorly formatted resume, I think. A well-formatted resume, you can pick out everything that you need as a reader very quickly, and a poorly formatted one, you got to work at it. And if you're a recruiter or a hiring manager, the resumes you got to work at are much tougher to read. You don't actually want to read them. Number 3 is use a deliberate section order, and I see this a lot, especially on student resumes. People read resumes top down, so you got to put stuff in order that you want someone to read it. And the most common mistake I see with this is that I see students put their education and then they put their awards and their scholarships at the top. Those are great. You should be totally proud of them. But what employers probably want to see is your education and then your work experience and your skills. You can put awards and honors down at the bottom of the resume. So always keep in mind your section order, right? Keeping it accurate. I gave a workshop a couple years ago at a school I won't name. And someone came up to me and he actually asked me this question. He goes, how much can I massage the details on my resume? And I said, you mean lie? He was like, I mean embellish. And I was like, so you're going to lie? Don't do it, because you will get caught. You may not get caught immediately, but you will eventually get caught. It's not good. So I think you should be proud of your work, but definitely keep it accurate. Okay, and then use correct grammar and spelling. I also once had a friend who emailed me his resume, and he said, Anne, can you pass this on to your company? And I emailed him right back. I said, I cannot. You put the word objective at the top, and you spelled it oyective. You got to fix that. And he wrote back. He goes, I'm so embarrassed. I already sent this out to 40 companies. I said, you got to update your oyective and do some spell check before you do that again. Spell check's really easy, right? In terms of grammar, the 2 common mistakes I see most often are run-on sentences and using the wrong tense. If it is a job you've done in the past, you need to use the past tense. If it's the present, then you use the present tense. Okay, so these are basic components. Keep it to one page, one-sided. Format it clearly. Use a deliberate section order. Keep it accurate. And have correct grammar and spelling. Spell check only takes a second. Cool. Okay. Advanced components. Know your resume backwards and forwards. I recommend this because it'll help you prepare for interviews and career fairs, because as an interviewer, I feel that anything on your resume is something that I can ask you about. So you better be ready to talk about it. If I ask you what this thing is and you don't know, I think you've lied. So that's not good. Be confident and stand out. Like, I think this is sort of putting some unique things about you on the resume, kind of like some talking points, right? So I'll give you an example. Stuff that's on my resume that's not exactly relevant to what I do at the moment, but is kind of interesting. I was a Girl Scout Gold Award recipient. Yes, it is from high school, but it's kind of fun. People like to talk about it, so I keep it on there. I actually am an inventor on 9 patents. Bet you didn't know that. That's a fun fact, right? And I also do a lot of speaking engagements, so that's on my resume too. So this could be anything from volunteer experience, leadership experience, the clubs you're in, work experiences you had. I had a friend once who actually did research with lasers and sharks. She put that on her resume. People loved it. Okay, so I think you can highlight some of your unique things about you. Quantify yourself. We're going to get into this during the feedback sessions, but this is describing what you've done and not making it so generic. Adding specifics. It adds more weight, right? And we'll go into that a little bit more. Okay, ordering your tech skills. Okay. This one is, I see this a lot again. People like to use very relative terms to describe their tech skills, like beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, proficient. I even saw one guy who had a line. Okay, he had a line, and then he filled in the line, and he was like, this is how much I know Java. And I was like, you 90% know Java. I don't think anybody except the writers of Java 90% know Java, right? But here's the problem with using kind of those like vague terms. There's no metric, right? So you might think you're an expert, and maybe you have 2 years experience with Java. But I think I'm an expert, and I have 15 years experience with Java. Who is the expert in that scenario? Me. Will I ask you a question that I think an expert would know? Yes. Is the likelihood that you will also know the answer to the question? Probably not, right? So what I actually advise is that you don't label your tech skills with vague terms or a line or stars. I've seen stars too. Order them in comfort level. Like if you're most comfortable writing in Java, put that one first, then followed by like Python and Ruby, whatever you want to do, right? So put it in order. And so that I know if I ask you a coding question, the odds are that if you put Java first, you're probably going to write it in Java. Totally fine. Showing coursework that sets you apart. I don't know, is it common to put your coursework on resumes here in Australia? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Kind of, I see, I be like, okay. So the mistake I see most often is people put every course they've ever taken. But I get it. If you're studying CS, I know you've taken CS1. I got you. So what I recommend folks do, because it's just as filler, right? It's just taking up space. It's not actually giving me any important information about you other than you're in a CS degree program, which I already know because you probably put that under your education section, right? Put coursework that sets you apart. Are you a freshman, sophomore taking a senior level class? Are you a junior, senior taking a graduate level class? Do you have a specific area that you're focusing on that you want me to know about? That's not your minor, but it's something else. Put that coursework in there. Cool? Okay, ultimate components. Showing the impact of your work. This is the why behind the what. Why did you spend time doing the thing that you were doing? Tell me the impact. And we're going to do this, go over this during the feedback session. Ensuring your resume is easy to understand. This is very, very important in tech because there are so many acronyms, right? Do you ever read someone's resume and I've read resumes from like, and I'm a sciencey person, like from my biology friends, and I have no clue what it means because it's just all acronyms. So I recommend making it easy for someone who's not in your field to understand, right? Demonstrating your objective. Okay. What I mean by this is that I used to have an objective on my resume. It was actually filler. Okay. I see a lot of objectives that are word vomit. Do you guys know what word vomit is, right? When people are like, I am an entrepreneurial, good communicating, hardworking, disciplined student looking to further my career by taking, getting an internship in the field of software development and back end or front end for the summer of 2019. Yeah, I get it. I got it. But the other problem with this is it is word vomit, but then a lot of people put qualities that they want to express about themselves, like they are hardworking, communicative, like good with time management, but the rest of their resume doesn't show me examples of those things, right? So what I actually advise that folks do, if you want to have an objective, use it because you want to get into like a very particular field, right? Like you only want a back-end internship. Totally fine. But also be aware that you're going to get looked over potentially for other roles because you've said, I only want this. So if that's definitely what you want, totally cool. If you're not sure, just don't have one. It's fine, right? And if you want to write an objective, or what I recommend people do is that they write one and they write an objective that says, like, what are the qualities about you that you want to demonstrate in your resume? Rip that objective off your resume, slap it on the wall, and as you're writing your resume, think, is this thing I'm writing about, does it demonstrate one of these qualities that I want to portray about myself? If it does, you keep it. If it doesn't, take it off. Cool? All right, this one, maintaining a master resume. I think when you go for a job, you can tailor the resume to that job. So you should keep a master resume of everything you've ever done. It can be 14, 15, 25 pages, doesn't matter. Because anytime you want to build a new resume, you can just pull from that master resume. And then you have a good record. Right. And I also recommend updating your master resume every 3 months. And the reason why I say 3 months is because then you'll remember what you've done, but it'll also tell you if you have nothing to add, that is a problem to think about. Right? Are you moving forward? Are you moving backwards? Where are you going? You can kind of keep track of that if you keep updating your resume. Cool. I know I gave a lot of information. Everything and more is on the handout, which you'll get at the end. You guys ready to start the workshop portion? Yeah? Okay. We're going to do 3 rounds. We're going to try really hard to get through all 3 and have time for a Q&A and wrap up at the end. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a focus area. So I'm going to give you a focus area. It's one of the things that we've just talked about, and that's what we're only going to focus on. Don't look at anything else in the resume, okay? You're going to, with your partner, you're going to review, and then you're going to chat about it. Cool? And then we'll switch partners. And I know it says 3, but I think we're going to do 2 switches because the what and the why kind of build on each other, but I'll explain that a little bit later. Does everybody have a copy of the resume, either electronically or in paper? Yeah? Okay, if you have a paper copy, just let your reviewer know if it's cool if they write on it, right? And please take notes and everything, okay? All right. One, everyone's getting their resume up, I can tell. Or just hold on to it for a second. Don't show it to anybody. There's a method. There's a method here. Quick note about feedback, because you're going to be giving feedback to everybody, okay? Here we go. We are rich sources of invaluable information for each other. But if someone gives you a piece of feedback that you don't like, you say thank you, and then ignore it, okay? And don't forget positive feedback. If there's something that you see on someone's resume that you think is really cool, tell them. Seriously. And the reason why I mention this is because you can, and if you are curious about something that's on their resume, ask them about it. Ask them what they mean. Ask them to elaborate on it, because maybe that's something really cool that they should have on their resume that for some reason they don't. I went to a workshop and I had a student and she asked me this question. She goes, I have a part-time job, but it doesn't like relate to my major, so I didn't put it on my resume. And I was like, okay, well, what is it? And she goes, well, I work at a restaurant. I said, well, how many hours a week do you work at the restaurant? She goes, 20. I said, so you go to school full-time, you have this GPA, you're involved in all these extracurriculars, and you work 20 hours a week at a restaurant? She goes, yeah. And I said, and you work at the restaurant to help pay for your education? She goes, yeah. I said, you have incredible time management, put it on your resume. Put it on your resume. It shows time management, it shows that you have customer service, do you know what I mean, experience, like this is amazing, it should definitely be on there. I know it's not related to your major, but it showcases all of these great qualities about you that you definitely want to have. So that's why I say, don't forget positive feedback. If something looks interesting, ask about it. Cool. All right, setup. So everyone has to find a partner, and what I want you to do before we get started, because this is a timed thing, this activity, you're going to place your resume face down in front of you, or just hide it on your computer. Don't let them see. Okay? So does everyone at every table have, can we just pair up with the person next to you? You'll switch. If anyone does not have a partner, just throw your hand up. Trust me, this is the most fun part of this whole workshop. All right. So we are going to focus on formatting. Yay, everyone's super jazzed. Okay. So I have this theory that there are 2 times someone's going to look at your resume. You're going to be at a career fair, and they're going to look at it for 7 seconds or less. Or they're going to be interviewing you, and they are going to read the entire thing. Okay, so we're going to do 2 rounds for this section on formatting. So we're going to do the first look, now you're going to have 30 seconds to do this. I'm going to tell you what to look for, and on your partner's resume, you're going to have 30 seconds to look for these things. Okay? So don't go yet. Don't go yet. All right, quick look. This is what I want you to find in your partner's resume. Find their name, their contact info, current and most recent experience, educational institution if they're still a student, roles occupied, and is it an easily read font? You have 30 seconds. Go for it. There's only 5 seconds left. All right, time's up. My alarm is going off. Time's up, everybody. All right, we're going to do a quick review, and then we're going to come back for the next formatting section. So for the next 2 minutes with your partner, just chat with them and let them know what was hard to find or what you didn't find, okay? Cool. Throw your hand up if you have any questions. All right, we got to wrap it up. Can everyone hear me? We got to wrap it up. Don't worry, we're still sticking with formatting. We're just doing the next round. How's everybody doing? You get some good feedback already? Some ideas? Yeah? All right. So now I'm going to show you an example of a very, very, very poorly formatted resume. Okay? This is really egregious. I made this myself. It took me a very long time to do it. Okay? So let's just look at some of the things that are happening here. We got a lot of different fonts. A lot, including Papyrus and Comic Sans, which design folks would tell you never to use. Right? Has anyone ever seen the Papyrus SNL skit with Ryan Gosling? Yes? Sometimes at the end of workshops, I show it, but we won't have time today. It's very funny. Go. I would recommend watching it after. Because this used to say Ryan Gosling on it, but when I started doing the conference circuit, I didn't think he would take kindly to his name on a sample resume. Right, so we got a lot of different fonts. We got a lot of different font sizes. The date formattings are off. It says May 2019 and then 08 2018. We have duplication here, Bachelor's of Science and BS. A lot of weird space going on. Not really sure what's happening there. Shout out to my friend with his objective. Put that on there. And then it's not even centered because there's some extra space over here. So this resume is pretty bad. It's also at the top, see that font? That's too small. That's really small. I recommend 10 point and above. Otherwise, it's just really hard for someone to read. So this is a very egregiously formatted resume, but this is something more like what you might see. So Sally has some different fonts. She's got education kind of formatted to the left and experience to the center. That's different. Her dates are a little off kilter and are different formats. And she's got some different sizes going on here. This is more like what you might see, not as egregious. But for this round, you're going to give your partner's resume a thorough read. And you're going to look for these things. Do your margins lined up? And that doesn't mean just like the top and bottom. It also means left and right. Are the dates aligned and formatted identically? Like May 2018 is different than 05 2018, right? Is the spacing consistent? And I don't mean in between words necessarily. I also mean in between sections, right? Are the bolding and italics consistent? Bolding and italics are fine. Just be consistent with their use. Is the font consistent and easily read? Is it too small or too large? And is there too much or too little text? Like, is there a block of text? That's really hard for someone who's looking at your resume to read through. It's just a lot to parse, right? So that's something you might want to split up into bullet points. Cool? All right, so we'll have like 5-6 minutes. So check out your partner's resume, give them some feedback, and then we'll move on to round 2 with a new partner. All right. All right, everyone, we got to wrap it up. We got to move to round 2 with a new partner. You're meeting someone new. This is very exciting. Is everyone ready? I know I probably interrupted some conversations, but I'm going to move us along. Yeah? Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to go over what we're going to focus on for this next round, and then you can find a new partner, share your resume, and you'll have about, 8 minutes for this one, 8-9 minutes, so a little bit longer, okay? Cool. So we're going to talk about quantifying yourself, and I have some examples so I can kind of display what I mean. So quantifying yourself means that you're building credibility with specific metrics. You're going to add some outcomes. You're going to add some numbers to your experience. You're going to describe exactly what you did. So here's an example. Fixed bugs. How many did you fix? As a reader, I'm going to assume that you fixed 2 because it says bugs, not bug, right? And that they were easy, okay? This is better. You fixed 150 bugs. All right, that's cool. This is great. You fixed 150 high priority bugs for the 1.0 release. Awesome. And I probably know how long it took you because let's say you did this during an internship. Fixing that many bugs is pretty impressive. Here's another example. You interviewed candidates. Again, I assume you interviewed 2, right? But I don't even know. I don't know what role they were for. I don't know where you interviewed them. I don't know how many. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these things I don't know, so it seems kind of vague to me. Better interviewed candidates for my team's open positions, assuming that you had the team on your resume, I would know. This is even better. I interviewed 75 candidates over a 6-month time period for full-time and part-time software engineer positions. Much more impressive, right? What you could add here, also to make it even more impressive, is tell me what kind of interview you did. Did you do behavioral? Did you do technical? Did you do algorithmic, right? That might be information to add. So for this one, you're just going to focus on your partner's resume, read the statements of the work that they've done and the experience that they've had, and ask yourself questions like, is it clear what your partner did? Like, is it clear or is it vague? Right? Like fixed bugs or interviewed candidates, they're very vague statements. I once saw a resume and they said, I updated 2 platforms during the conference. And I was like, so you posted to Facebook and Instagram? I mean, that's great. But like, I want a little bit more, right? I don't actually know what that means. It's too generic. And it could have been really awesome, but the way that I was reading it, it just seemed like a kind of like a filler. Do you know what I mean? Right? Cool. So you're going to ask your partner when you read their work experience, are there specific metrics in there, numbers and outcomes? Do you understand? Is it very clear what they've done? And if it's not, just note it and just ask them about it. Cool? Everyone's nodding? Okay, so find a new partner for this round. We'll have about 8-9 minutes. Any questions? Just throw your hand up. All right, folks, we got to wrap it up for round 3. Got to wrap it up for round 3. How many folks found out something really cool about your partner? Yeah, awesome. Does anyone have any ideas of how they're going to update their resume before their career fair tomorrow? Yeah, okay, cool. Cool, so we are going to do round 3, and then we'll have a couple of minutes for Q&A and wrap up. But I'm going to stick around after if you have any questions or you want to show me your resume. I do have a party trick. It's very popular when I go out. I can probably find an issue with your resume in 5 seconds or less. It is very scary, yes. I have seen a lot of resumes. Okay, cool. So for this one, you can stick with your partner. And we're just going to build on the what you've done by adding the why. What is the impact of your work? And I got a couple examples. You worked on a mobile app. That's pretty cool. That's cool. But why? Oh, okay. You built a mobile application for Android and iOS that's still in use. That's great. It means it was robust enough that your customers are still using it. This is better. You designed and built a system of record that over 200 field engineers use on a daily basis on their Android and iOS devices. That's awesome. Another impact example, you created some tests. Okay. You created tests that found 25 critical issues. That's even better. And you found tests that found 25 critical issues during the 4-week release cycle. Okay. That's even better. Do you get kind of where I'm going where you're adding this information about the impact of what you've done? Just to show people the why, and that you also understood and understand why you were doing the work that you were doing. You didn't just like, someone just came up to you and they were like, do this, and you were like, okay, and like didn't ask about it, that kind of a thing. So for this one, you're just gonna review your partner's resume, when they're describing what they're doing, do you understand the impact that it had? The why they've done what they did, right? So you're taking the what and you're adding the why. So just ask yourself the question, like, when you're reading something, why would they do this? That makes sense? Yeah, why would they spend time on this? Why was this important? Cool, so we'll have about 7 minutes for this, and then we'll wrap up and everyone can go for drinks. Cool? All right. This up. Can everybody hear me? We're gonna wrap this up real quick. We're almost done. Cool, because we only have 3 minutes left. I'm just gonna go through these slides super quickly, and then everyone's gonna get handouts. Yeah, okay. All right, wrap up. I'm just gonna read this because I think this explains it really well. Crafting an accurate, tailored, great resume is hard work. It is very difficult to write a good resume. And I think it requires discipline, planning, and help from others like your peer group. Your network is an invaluable source of feedback for your resume, right? And remember that your resume is you on paper. If you are confident in your resume, it will show while you interview. It really does make a huge difference. Cool. Okay, so I've got handouts, everybody. They have all of the components of a great resume, plus some details and examples. And I hand them out so that if you want to go back to your college or your organization or your club or whatever, and you want to run this kind of resume feedback session, you can. And I highly recommend asking for feedback on your resume with a focus area, right? Because if like I walked up to you and you're like, hey, can you just like check out my resume? You'd probably be like, it's fine. You know, but if I'm like, hey, can you check out my resume and see if the formatting makes sense and like it's very clear to pick out these certain things, you'll give me much more specific, much better feedback on that, right? Cool. Okay, so I might need some help handing out some of the handouts, but do we have time for Q&A or should I just stick around? Okay, so I'm just going to repeat the questions to make sure I got them and so everyone else can hear them. So the question is, do you put references available upon request on your resume? And the second question is, what font do you use? Okay. Do you put referrals on your resume? Like not just saying references available, but like the references themselves? Okay, so in the market, which I'm pretty used to, the US, you don't typically put your references on the resume, and I don't really see a lot of people put references available on request. I kind of assume that if I wanted to ask for references, I would, and it doesn't have to be on the resume. With that said, if you do have references available upon request on your resume, and I ask you, you should have them, you know. So that's not typical, but again, thank you. It's your resume, so if it's something that you want to do, then that's fine. The second question was about the font. Okay, so I would say an easily readable font. The suggestions in here are like Calibri and Times New Roman, just not something that's like calligraphy or script or something that's difficult to read. You want to have something pretty generic. I see a lot of times people use like a funky font for their name at the top, which is fine because that's usually bigger. And I can kind of see that, but for the rest of the resume, just something easily readable. And I know we got to wrap it up, so I'm going to stay here. If anyone has any questions before you head out on your resume, you want me to review it or anything. And then how many people are probably going to update their resume tonight? Does anybody want a review tomorrow morning? Would anyone be interested in that? Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get here at 8 a.m. I'm going to have a lot of coffee. I'm going to get here at 8. I'm going to be having a lot of coffee, and I will sit on one of the benches across the way here that I saw earlier today. So if I can answer any questions for you tomorrow, I will be there at 8 a.m. Cool? Okay, cool. Thank you all so much. This was great to meet everybody.